Definitely something that we want to bring up is Cashin. Cashin's our sister that passed in 2016. I mentioned, you've heard me mention in the past. I'm going to continue to talk about her. Cashin is the number one motivation in my life. She passed away, and since then it's kind of been, her. I've tried to use her passing as, sort of motivation, strength to give me strength. Go on with this hard life or whatever, however you want to look at it. So for me, that's kind of how I've dealt with it since 2016. We've both dealt with it in our own way. I know you've dealt with it kind of similarly. Definitely used it as motivation, but we don't often get to talk about it. It's kind of something that's really hard to talk about. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
So I think it'd be interesting, for people to hear both our perspectives of what happened, the day that Cashin passed, or the day leading up to it, and what we went through, and kind of just have people hear that story, because a lot of people have gone through traumatic events, and they'll a lot of people can relate to that. So I guess I would ask you, just from your perspective, how did that event go down for you? Because I know for me it was crazy. So, and obviously it was for you. So, where were you when that all went down?
Well, I remember you hearing the news from you, because you called me. Because it was, I forget the day exactly when that happened. Maybe March, the day before she was
or something. Yeah,
the day before she was officially proclaimed passed away. Ben called me and said, and that was the day that I had returned to college I'd had my spring break for like 2 weeks. I was there for maybe a day.
You were in South Carolina.
At University of South Carolina. So I had to fly back to Columbia.
From Maryland.
And the night before was like, Cashin, this obviously happened like all of a sudden. None of us knew. She wasn't showing really any signs of like, obviously, having a sickness that would cause her to pass away. But so the night before, I had seen her, and she was I remember she asked me a question about like her math, maybe some math homework she had, because like she wasn't on spring break or whatnot. But she asked me. I remember she asked me the altitude of like a triangle, and I forgot the formula in the moment, but I was just like, you got to look it up. Told her to do that, and she was like, yeah, I'll do that. And I'm sure she did, but that was the last conversation. But it was weird because I asked her to, like, give me a hug for some reason right before she left. So I did get that in before, I had left and heard, obviously, this news. So when I got back, I'd flown back, like, obviously that night, got back to Columbia, and then that, I guess, day or evening, Ben had called me and told me that Cashin was in the hospital, like super sick, about to like potentially pass away. So he said that I was gonna get a flight home, or like, so we were getting arranged a flight back home immediately for me, and I remember getting picked up by my uncle, flying back, and at that point,
Skip or who?
So that was our Uncle Fred.
Okay.
He had picked me up, I think, at BWI or something, and he. I remember asking him, or like trying to talk to him, and he was just like, reluctant, or not reluctant, but hesitant to say anything, because I'm sure what he was told wasn't very good in the moment, or he knew, obviously more than I did. I hadn't learned more than what Ben had told me on the phone, which was, she's potentially is going to pass away or is dying. So other than that, I really didn't know anything coming back from the airport. We went to the hospital and our family was there. I remember, just having no idea what happened. But from there, obviously, like I saw you and mom and dad, and I think a few of our aunts and uncles. Like, I kind of forget, but definitely some people. A lot of our family lives around the area, so they came, and eventually we went into the hospital room, And I remember, like, we saw her and she was linked to, like, a breathing tube and or something to help her breathe in the moment. She wasn't completely, like, strapped to everything that we had seen at one point, I don't think. But eventually, like, someone called us and, like, talked to us and, like, explained, like, what was going on or something. It all happened so fast at this point. It's hard to, like,
remember everything.
Yeah, put it in order. But we talked to some people. They said that this is what happened, and at that point they didn't know. She was like, they were saying that she potentially had, or it could have been anything. They were doing tests at that point. I guess they asked us certain stuff that had her past.
They were trying to figure out what happened.
Right, figure out.
And the doctors didn't even know what
right,
was going on.
So they didn't know, even based on, like, whatever. So, from there, we have no idea what's happening, and just we're all talking about, like, and it was crazy because I remember, like, they just I don't know if it's the law or something, they just immediately ask you something that's, like, has to do with them dying. That's, like, if they die. I guess it's, like, organ donor or something like that. But it was something, like, in the moment that's, like, just if they die, I guess, at the hospital, they have to legally ask you, like, in that's the first thing they ask you, whatever, when they talk to you. So it just seemed abrupt. I think it's back. You can hit it.
All right, but
yeah, but that's what they had to do. So, but it was just to hear that they had no idea what was happening, and eventually, hearing that it was a brain, just like what they think happened was a brain, aneurysm or something where that caused her something in part of her brain to collapse, which then followed her going brain dead. So looking back on that, it's just crazy to even think about the story. To think about, I still think about, as Ben was saying, it's been his number one motivation. It definitely has in my life as well, because it's just, to see, well, obviously we're so blessed just, to be who we are, to be able to do, for the most part, what we want, or we have the capability, especially, who we are, where we are, and just all that. And then to see people, especially young people who, like, try so hard, who don't get the possibility to do that in their life because it's cut short from, either senseless acts of violence or just you have no idea. And in this case, in our case, our sister passed away from just a freak accident with, whether it be a sickness, medicine, or, whatever, but not acting too fast, or something, came on too fast that they couldn't tell. But, to think about that, it definitely is just a motivation, because you realize, right, people don't get the opportunity, and it's hard to, like, always, like, put the pressure on yourself. But that's why I think you gotta always think about the person, because they don't want you to feel that pressure, but obviously they would want you to feel the motivation from them. Mm-hmm. So I think getting that balance is always key. Like, I think obviously it's been like 6 years now, maybe even more, 7 years, mm-hmm. since Cashin passed away. So that's been one struggle I've had. It's just trying to not put too much pressure if I feel like I didn't do enough, or, in cases like that.
Right.
But you always just gotta think that they love you, and they would want you to feel all right and feel motivated, but don't put too much pressure on yourself to
to overextend yourself.
Overthink, yeah.
Stress yourself out too much.
Stress yourself out, right? And if you don't feel like you're doing too much, it's always, obviously they would want you to push
that's interesting.
And remember them.
That's an interesting, because like you said, she would want us to, be happy. So it's not like she would want you to, like, try to do something that would put you in a position where you're no longer happy. You know what I mean? Yeah. So even if it is, like, going for whatever you think a goal that you need to get or whatever, But yeah, so where I was when that happened was I was at home, and Dad woke me up at like, late as fuck, 3 a.m. or some shit, and was like, Cashin's dying. And I was like really mad at him for saying it, I remember, because I didn't believe him. I was like, shut up, Dad. Like, I remember saying that specifically, like, shut up. Like don't say that, like, basically. Because I didn't think he was telling the truth. Or I didn't think, it was that serious. I thought she was just sick. So it was like, when he said that, I got angry. Because I didn't think he was, saying it the way it actually is, you know what I mean? And kind of like scaring me. So whatever, I got up, I got in the car, and we're going. And, we're not talking. Me and my dad are in the car driving to John Hopkins Hospital. And we're not really talking because it's early and I'm tired. And, my dad, like, we don't really know yet because, like, my mom called my dad from the hospital and she was the one that was there and, like, saw my sister, I guess, go from being really sick to, having a seizure to then, being unresponsive. So my mom saw all that, but my dad, I guess, got the call from my mom, and my mom kind of told him that, but I guess he obviously, you can be told that. There's one thing being told that and then actually seeing it. So I guess he still wasn't sure, you know what I mean? And then, so he tells me Cashin's dying, we got to go. I'm like, all right, like, let's go. Shut up, Dad. So it's like, we go and we get there, and then like she's, in the bed with a breathing tube, a couple other things, strapped up to her, sleeping, or I guess not unresponsive, and I never got to see her responsive. So I think that was the hardest thing for me, was like never really getting to see her again, from the time that I saw her leave, because she left, rewinding, she left the day before. I remember she was going to the hospital and she's like, I'm sick, or she was sick and she was going, and I remember saying bye to her, good luck, but I remember she was at the bottom of the steps and I didn't like come down to like say, I didn't like come down and like give her a hug or anything. I kind of just like said from the top of the steps, like, good luck. Obviously no, now I regret that. That's something I think about all the time, but it's like, you don't think when someone's saying, even if they say they're going to the hospital, at that time I didn't think, because she didn't look like she was going to die. She looked like she was sick, so it was just like the flu or something. So it was like she goes and she's going to the hospital and you're like, good luck, I'll see you tomorrow, basically. Like, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking she's just going to go talk to a doctor, just like any kid does when they get a little too high of a fever. You go to the doctor, you get an antibiotic, you come home, you're fine. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. So I didn't, that's the last conversation I had with her was, good luck. I'll basically see you tomorrow. And then, you get to the hospital and she's unresponsive, and now you're just like, fuck, like, I can't believe, like, this is happening. Mm-hmm. And, like, that's, Cameron's on his way at that point, and my whole family's there, and my whole family, my mom's one of 7, my dad's one of 5, so it was like a lot of aunts and uncles were showing up with cousins, and people were gathering, in this other hospital room that they had cleared out for our family to kind of be and gather for the night, because no one was yet sure that she had passed because she wasn't pronounced dead. But Cameron, like he had mentioned, we got a call in from the doctor after Cameron got there, and like the doctor kind of explained that she was, they weren't sure what had happened, but they were sure that she was like unresponsive and at basically
having seizures.
She had seizures, and so they knew all that, and they knew basically they knew at that point she wasn't going to wake up. So that's what they like kind of told us, was that basically we don't know what happened, but she's not going to wake up. And that was like the most fucked up thing to hear, because you're just like pissed at like the doctors at that point, because you're like, well, what do you mean? Like you just think it's like a joke. You're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, you're not going to tell me what, like, you mean you don't know? Like, I don't know. It was just wild to me because anytime,
you just want to hear something.
You just want to hear something, like, anything. Did you take, who knows? Like, but that wasn't the case. Nothing was the case. She showed up, and there was no drugs in her system. There was nothing, no marks in her body, no signs of anything. So it was like, no one, it was, she had she basically, what happened was she had too high of a fever, and then her body went into seizure because of it. Now no one knows, what caused the fever, you know what I mean, and what, if it was just her getting the flu or whatever. But, it seemed like more than that, because it was like, she's had the flu before, and that didn't happen. So, it was just so mind-blowing just to, like, not really get an answer as to, like, what happened to her. And, like, now she's gone, and now it's like, all right, like, you're still at the hospital because it's a process of, like, she's gonna donate her organs, and now actually she was able to save somebody. There was a girl I know who needed an organ. I don't know all this. There was a few people that she donated organs to. At the time, I was so distraught that I didn't really even care to, like, know about it. But I know there was one woman that actually came and visited us years later who she had donated, I think her kidney to, and saved her life. And so that was something we had to go through, was just kind of like waiting for that. And you're just like, at that point, you're like, I don't even know. You're in like this like weird, like, she's dead, but you're still just like sticking around just to like see what happens. Or at least, I don't know, that's how I felt. Like, it was like weird. Like, it was like almost like you feel like something could still happen. But it was like, so you're still at the hospital for like days, and then, whatever. Now she's an organ donor, and then eventually, you leave. And now once you leave, that's when it becomes like real, right. I guess.
And then the next day is when I think I guess that night or something, they officially
pronounced her dead and stuff. So I guess. So then there was a moment when they, like, she was already gone, but she was hooked up to a ventilator, so they kind of like allowed our family to decide when we were going to take her off, right? And then like kind of allow us to just determine the time of death, basically. Because she was already like gone, but she was on a ventilator, so she was technically still alive. So it was let's all gather and have this moment of saying goodbye to her, and that's what we did. We had our immediate family, and then everyone that's very close to our immediate family, cousins and aunts there, and we all said bye to her, and took her off the ventilator. That was obviously a very emotional experience, and think from there you had the funeral. It was wild, that whole experience, because it's like just so much went on. It was like the craziest experience of my life, obviously, probably of yours too. So it was like, she passes away, and everybody that's your best friend is like calling you up, like, telling you, I'm so sorry. And we got together with Harrison, right? And kind of like went to his house, Will and Harrison, my cousin Will, and
he made us some lobsters, and
see, I don't even remember. Now that you mention it, I do remember it, but it's like I couldn't have remembered that had you. He ended up cooking us a meal.
Yeah,
there's a lot, you know what I mean, like that night, I think, or the night of, and just it was just being together. It wasn't like we were really saying anything. It was kind of just like they knew that we needed them, and we were all together. And that was, good to know that you had people there. So it's like, you're kind of in this now time period between her passing and her funeral. So you're kind of just like, all right, we got to like now bury her. And like that obviously takes a few days. So you're like,
another whole process.
It's another whole process that you're now going through, and that was a whole thing. Like, the funeral's crazy. There was a police escort for her, hearse, and there were so many people there because one of her best friends was, her dad's in the police, was like one of the police guys, sergeants or whatever. So he was able to, get a whole police, force to like escort my sister to the
my name
funeral.
is Giamata.
Yeah, I think it was Mr. Yamada, and a
Yamada hooked it
combination
up.
of him and I think it was also Mr. What's that girl's name? One of her friends, her dad is like, but yeah, both of them were a part of that, and so there was like we knew multiple police officers, and it was kind of crazy just because to have that happen was like, I don't even know, you just are like in this like dream of like my sister just fucking died and now there's like police escorting me to like her funeral and there's a million people at her funeral because she had such a big impact on her school and like her teachers and everyone she had come in contact with, and then everyone that we knew came. So it was just like, when someone young dies, you definitely get a big response in terms of like everyone being so shocked. So I think that's everyone, and
especially
her
like a family
yeah
oriented,
and she was such a good person. That combination of all those things brought so many people to the funeral that it was kind of just crazy because you're still in fucking complete shock and don't want to speak to a single soul, yet you need to because everyone's like trying to come console you.
Send their condolences.
Say I'm so sorry, give you a hug, but you don't so you're kind of like, you have now people coming and there's a whole line of people waiting for us to take our hands when they came and like say sorry, and it was just like, get me out of here, like I don't want to be part of this right now. But it was also like you appreciated it, so you stayed,
right,
and you went through with it because you just everyone really just like wanted to.
Yeah, it was
everything was for her at that point. It wasn't like it didn't matter what you wanted to do. It was like, all right, well, this is for her.
Yeah.
And I remember,
which is tough in its own right.
Yeah,
but I'm sure everyone has that. Everyone who's experienced something like that, right? You gotta go through stuff, and then you feel uncomfortable. So
right. And I don't know. I had having to do the eulogy. I remember having to speak for the eulogy and just being. That actually was a turning point in my like public speaking, not being afraid of what people think anymore. I distinctly remember like thinking like before then there was no way I could ever speak in front of that many people. Like it was just like there's no way I would never have had anything to do with it, even if it was for something like that. Before having experienced my sister passing, I would have never had the self-confidence to be able to just go up and speak in front of a bunch of people. And once that happened, it was like, this is not for me. This doesn't matter how I feel. Like, I need to go do this and speak about my sister. And, like, it's not like I had much to say, but it was, like, just, I didn't care. I remember, like, not being nervous at all because I just told myself, like, Cashin's, like, gonna take care of me, like, and, like, I'm gonna be able to do this, like, you know what I mean? And, did it, and we all, said something, and it was, like, crazy because, obviously there was just so many people there. So yeah, it was like a wild experience. And now she's then the funeral's over, and now you're still kind of going through the process of burying her, and it was just a whole thing.
Yeah, I definitely remember
a whole thing
right from that. Just then, going through the process of then we went to the funeral or the burial site, and we buried her next to a couple of like our grandparents and our aunt who recently passed away from cancer, who was close to her. So yeah, there's just a lot of things that were special and hard at the same time to experience, and that's one thing that like in that process, and just when you go through it, when something like that happens, you just have no idea, and that's one of the unknowns of that. And then but you realize that obviously it's all for her, and it's just you're thinking so much about her, and it can be hard because obviously that is a grieving process, but then not everyone that does it does work for everyone in their own thing, but then obviously people go through their own grieving processes and do their own things in order to like figure that out. And that's definitely something like past the initial thing that's it was hard to figure out among all of us, just how are all of us gonna cope with it at past the initial week, 2 weeks, year, now 7 years of it being we're gonna think about her for the rest of our lives. And now it being 7 years, I can definitely think back and realize that I'm definitely in a better mind and a better, mind, heart, soul, everything, just understanding it, even going about it. It's still like a journey and still always going to be a journey. But like anything, you get better at it and you understand it more. And being open about it is always better, which is, what we're doing right now and what we always do, what we've always been trying to do, since it's happened. So.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to talk about when you look at things kind of, or it's not even hard to talk about, but it's like to initiate the conversation sometimes seems like it's hard to kind of fit it in to regular life because it puts you in a certain mind space that you don't necessarily
could be
need to be in or like
yeah.
for that specific day.
That's part of life, being just busy and too busy and just we're worried about the wrong stuff and
right,
people don't talk enough, and then that's also a pandemic across the world, just not people not talking and understanding like when people are trying to talk or whatnot. So yeah, something like that, when something like this happens where you lose a loved one, you definitely have to go through that and understand it in your own right, and it's hard sometimes. And some people go through their whole life without even understanding it. I remember talking to like one guy who was like an older guy who I had mentioned. Yeah, who I had like mentioned it to. I was like working as, I think it was like the first couple years I was working as like a waiter, and I mentioned it to him, and then he came up after and mentioned how he had lost his sister when he was I think 20 and she was like around 17. Got my oatmeal cookie. But he he just says like, I still think about her all the time, like and it's, he can still think back to that moment like it was like yesterday, like one of those things. So I'm sure I will too, and I know that it's it's going to be ups and downs as I think about her and as we go through life and whatnot. But
right, yeah.
Discussing it, and just always having her in the back of our minds and with our intentions is always just.
Yeah, time is definitely definitely. They say time heals all. That's kind of true, I would say. And I mean, obviously, it's always going to be something we think about and something that definitely affects us. But just as time goes, you kind of like learn to accept it. I guess it's not really like you ever get over it. You just kind of learn to deal with it. And that's kind of what has happened, I guess, for us, is we've learned to deal with it. And kind of, I don't know that coming to terms with it is a good way to put it, because we're still, I don't know, I'm still pretty. There's certain things that don't sit well with me with like kind of just the process, which is there was a slight delay in her transport. When she was originally at the hospital, she got sent to a hospital in Olney, Maryland, which is the local hospital. And then they determined she needed to like go to Johns Hopkins because it was something more serious, which is in D.C., which is about 40 minutes away. So she was going to get an ambulance transport, which was, took, I think, something like, 45 minutes to an hour to like get there. So there was errors, that were made, and I think that's not the only thing. There was another thing that happened, but I'll just say that that's the one thing I know that happened. So that one error definitely could have, I feel like, altered, the outcome. And my parents definitely sat with a lawyer, and they went over whether to sue or not, and I think we ultimately decided not to, just because there was, I know we were going to need overwhelming proof, I guess, and we weren't sure that we necessarily had that. I definitely think we should have pursued it, but I'm not the adult in that situation. I'm 21 when that happens, so it's like, and I have no money to, it's not like that wasn't my decision to make. So, and I don't know, I think I probably would look at it differently if I was her parent, but as her brother, obviously, I was like, yeah, we need to sue them, because that was what
Yeah.
they could have potentially caused, her death, or they could have, something could have been done in that 45 minutes that could have changed the outcome. And I really believe that. So it's like that's something that I'll be fucked up with all the time, and kind of I have now distrust in doctors in general now because of that. I definitely go through, like, there's certain things that I have now because of that situation that don't necessarily benefit me. You know what I mean? I'm still not vaccinated just because that kind of goes into the distrust in just doctors and medicine and now and like anything that has to do with the hospital. And that's not to say I, don't think people should get vaccinated. If you're comfortable with it, go ahead and get vaccinated. And I don't even want to talk about that, but just that's for me, it's kind of created this now fear of, hospitals that, I have to deal with and distrust in doctors that I have to deal with. So it's like, not all doctors are bad. So it's like, now I gotta. There are negatives too, obviously, that happening that are still affecting me to this day. That I, now have to. Those are things though that you kind of come to realize, and now that I realize I have this, kind of biased opinion of doctors and hospitals. I have to now like realize that in the back of my head, like going into it, it's probably not as bad as I think it is. You know what I mean? Or I'm portraying things to be. So just in terms of like getting everyday fucking checkups and going to the hospital for normal things, such as the vaccine. So yeah, that's just things I deal with. I mean, but other than like I said, it completely changed the way that event completely changed. Her passing away completely changed how I look at, how people perceive me, myself, kind of just like the way I look at myself. I really am more happy with, the way that I perceive myself now as just a man. I'm not worried about what people think anymore. And I think that's all attributed to her passing and just kind of, whether it's her strength, being passed over to me, that's the way I like to look at it, or just, that trauma kind of just causing me to shift the way I think. It's been, me now not really giving a fuck what people think. I'm trying to just do me, be happy, do whatever it takes to be happy, do the things that I like, and not care what people think about that. And obviously always being a good person, that's the thing that people sometimes get, that kind of I guess gets lost in when people see me doing what I want to do all the time. Sometimes people think that doesn't mean that I want to be a good person, but that actually is what I want to do. So just because I'm doing the things I want to do on an everyday basis doesn't mean I'm not a good person. I'm actually a great person because that is what I want to do. I want to be a good person. Not everybody wants to be a good person. Not everybody wakes up every day and is like, that's a goal of mine, to be a good person, unfortunately. So that is a goal of mine, though. Every day is to, like, be a good person on top of everything else. Is like, not be a fucking bad, bad soul. Like, so I really value that. That's one of my biggest, values and priorities, is just always treating people with respect and stuff, and trying to level with people and understand and take people's point of views now, and so that's really helped, and come all from her passing. So it's definitely something that I've taken and carried into my music career with everything I do, in terms of, if I'm going to perform, if I'm going to do a music video, if I'm, anything, going to meet somebody that's important that could change the career, or, face of my career, or, path of my career, then I'm now more confident because of that event. And, why that is, I'm not really sure, but that's just, what happened with me and my brain chemistry. And, I'm blessed that happened. And, again, we all deal with it differently. Something that we're all going to have to deal with, going forward. And as long as we have each other to talk about it, like today and like other days when we talk about it with my family, because you're gonna hear me have on lots of family members actually, and we're gonna talk about this event. So it's not gonna be the first time you hear about it, but this is me and my brother's take on it, and appreciate you guys listening. I guess that's we'll talk a little bit more just so we don't end it there. I'll ask you, I guess, what are your 3-5 year goals? Do you have any immediate goals that you want to achieve that you want to talk about? I guess what are your current aspirations in life, CamBoh?
Well, first I want to finish school, which I'm about to in a few weeks or like a month or 2 months. And
college, right? Yeah.
Right, college, yeah, at Maryland, University of Maryland. I went to South Carolina, and then this thing happened with my sister. I tried to go back. A few things happened. I think I failed like 2 of my classes, and then try to go back again. I think, yeah. So that semester, I ended up failing like two of my classes, but then I ended up trying to go back, I think, the next semester, and I didn't do really well again. Because at that point, I really, like I said, I wasn't like dealing, or like I was talking about earlier, I hadn't dealt with, it properly yet, or done the proper healing, or, talked about it, or, just understood really what happened. So it definitely took me a while to kind of be in the right mind place to be able to go to school again and even understand, like, and now looking back is great because I moved closer to home, which was better in the moment after that happened, but I ended up changing my major and kind of figuring out more what I wanted to do because I feel like I was rushing, which would go into my point of anyone who is going to college. If you're listening to this, just if you don't know what to do, either go in with go someplace where you are going to like the people and take general courses and then figure out what you want later on. Or obviously go, if you need a specialty in something, go to that school. But other than that, just take general stuff and then take, if you need it, take a year in between because there's no rush. And honestly, if you want money, then you should be working. But if you want something that, like skills that, you need or whatnot, then, go somewhere that you'll like going and you'll enjoy the people. Mm-hmm. And then you'll graduate because it'll motivate you if you're in an environment that you fit in or that you feel good in. Yeah. So just do it for that, and then once you come out, you'll probably be in whatever you want to do. You'll find a job. If it'd be the same likelihood if you just started working, because then if you had just started working, you would have been 5 years in the workforce compared to someone who's just so there's. Every position has its ups and downs, so just obviously whatever you do, you have to be comfortable and do it to the best of your ability. Just do it so you enjoy it. So, if you do that, then you'll probably continue doing it. But yeah, for me, I think after I graduate, I may actually go sell some pest control for one of my buddies in Louisville, Kentucky this summer. Mm-hmm. So I may do that for like 6 months. Which is a sales job. So I may do that, and then I'll be back around August if I do that, and then potentially wait for the next season or look for another job in communications or just videoing or photography, something in that realm. But also just working on my own brand and continue to get better. The different skills needed to put out content and create the things I imagined in my mind. So I'm also looking forward to moving out with my girlfriend, shout out Maddie, and hopefully moving somewhere that it has nice fresh air and has good cool places to walk, and where mushrooms is legal potentially, and bud. So yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I definitely think that you've got some good ideas, and you're on your way. Definitely collecting as much knowledge as you can is always good. Going to school, if you can go to school, I'd recommend it if it's something for you and you feel like you have something you're interested in.
Yeah,
and you really
real quick, I want to
learn.
add, if you're an athlete, that you remind me, if you're an athlete, I would say go wherever they're giving you money. Obviously, go wherever they're giving you money, and obviously, if it look up and like it's a school that makes you do too much, don't do that. But you want to be on a schedule so that you finish it up, because then if you finish it up, obviously you can then move on to whatever you want to do for the rest of your life.
Right.
So do so, if you're gonna do the thing, then do it somewhere that's gonna give you money or is interested in you and actually cares about you and where you can excel, because wherever you can excel, you'll feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
And if you feel good about yourself, you'll play good, look good, feel good, play good.
Yeah, a lot of people go to the school just to like go with their friends or something, but I think being at a school that's going to actually give you money so you don't have to pay too much is good, because in the end it's either you or your parents having to pay. And I think that if you can save money, I know that college is, in my opinion, way overpriced, and I think the community college route is a good route in terms of taking a couple of years at community college, if that's an option for you, and then going to your state school and finishing it up, because that's a little less expensive. I think that if you're lucky enough to be able to afford a 4-year school because your parents are able to support you, then that's something that you can do too. I just think that having a goal, whatever you want to do, you can do it, and you need to try your best to really, really achieve that goal. Mm-hmm. So if your goal is to be a doctor, then that you're going to have to go to school, to get that degree to be a doctor. If you want to be a lawyer, same thing. If you want to, do most business jobs, you need, a business degree. Yeah. So there's definitely certain things that if you want to do those things, go to school. But I was somebody who didn't want any of those things, and I didn't go to school, I tried a couple of years, and I eventually realized work was for me. Like getting out of high school and immediately working full time was definitely the right decision for me, because I was able to learn the value of working, learn the value of a dollar, learn how to save money, and then also learn that job wasn't what I wanted to do for the rest of my life, and learn that I can do this job and then change jobs. So it's like a lot of people, I guess, go into jobs thinking that this is what they're going to do for the rest of their lives, but then it's like, what if you don't like it? So it's like, I don't think anyone should feel stuck in anything they do. If you don't like your job, quit and go do something else, because it really is that simple. People want to overlook at it. If you're making good money, I get it, and you need to pay your bills, I get it. Get your bills paid, but then once they're paid, quit. Because it's like, you don't want to work anywhere you don't like, because not like you could die tomorrow, and you've just worked now for the job you hate for 10 years, and hated the last 10 years, and now you die. Like that's my biggest fear, is like hating like my life when I die. Like I want to be really happy when I die. Like you're not happy, like obviously you could be sad when you're dying, but I mean like with my life in general, like what I've been up to the last 5 years, like if I go out and I know that for the last 5 years I've been like not doing the thing I want to do, then I would be really upset. So I just think that, but again, there's like the balance of taking care of your responsibilities. So it's like, it's all about how you look at it, I guess. And if you look at it like, I enjoy being able to take care of my responsibilities. I enjoy being able to afford a nice house and send my kids to private school, then that might be something that you really do enjoy, is working a business job, putting on a suit, going in every Monday through Friday, and getting that taken care of. Which is what a lot of people do, what I mean? But especially the people I grew up with. But for me, that wasn't the immediate move, and everyone's different though. I think a lot of people that have done that are doing well around here. So it's like Cameron said, it's whatever way you want to do it, take it. You just got to work hard, and in anything you do, it's gonna like really be hard. So I think when you're a kid and you hear that like expression, like you really got to work when you get older, or it's going to be hard. It's like you don't really think that's true, but like it really is true. But it's not something that you need to like really, get worked up about or get upset about. It's just kind of something you need to embrace, and then once you start to work hard, it kind of becomes second nature, and you start to enjoy it, and it starts to become habit. And I think teaching yourself good habits and good techniques of how to get things done, organizing yourself. These are all things that can really help you to succeed, obviously, in whatever you're doing. So, guess that might be. We could wrap it up for today. I mean, do we have any performances or shows coming up that we know about that are going down in terms of us like doing shows?
Let's see here. Not that I know of right now. Not on the schedule for this year.
Not yet.
But early 2022 are in talks.
Yeah, we're looking for. I know I'm trying to come perform in the area. I'm trying to set up a little college tour, East Coast college tour, where I would go and visit a few schools, maybe perform. So we're talking to a couple schools about that right now. Trying to get it all organized. Trying to, dealing with COVID, it's been really, really hard to set up any kind of show and performance, especially when, you're dealing with schools and things like that. And for me personally, I feel like my core fan base is kind of like younger crowd, that would be in college, you know what I mean, or even high school. So it's tough to like really be able to coordinate with those schools right now with everything going on. But that's okay because we're gonna get something figured out. Cameron, you have Instagram. Where can you be found on Instagram?
Cam_Boh with a BOH.
You have TikTok?
Yeah, CamBoh Burgers.
CamBoh Burgers.
CamBoh Burgers.
CamBoh Burgers. Yeah. What else? You've been doing a lot of videos, right? You've been starting to now like kind of transfer your talents to video making.
Definitely been trying to get that under my belt as well. I've been taking a lot of classes at for my major to like finish it up with like video editing and stuff. So I've been trying to get my skills better at that. But been piecing the whole thing together. Got a couple more months.
Nice. And we probably will have some music coming. We're gonna
for sure
probably have to get working on some stuff, but we've got a few songs outstanding right now, and we're gonna probably do a few more and give you guys another Boh Bros 2. So that just be on the lookout for that.
Boh Bros 1 out right now.
Yeah, Boh Bros 1 is out right now. If you haven't heard it already, it's on all platforms, all music platforms. Boh Bros, BOHBROS. And that can be downloaded on all platforms. Go check it out. I'm BenBoh. This is CamBoh. Appreciate you listening. And
I'm sorry. Let's go.
Yeah. Mine's haunted and feeling right. Sometimes I think my mind's haunted. Sometimes I think my mind's haunted. Yeah. Sometimes I think my mind's haunted.